And hello, everybody. Welcome to Narrative Live on a Wednesday evening. We're expecting a verdict in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, but it's obviously not going to happen imminently. And that's good news because we have so much else to talk about tonight. The whole Gosar event that happened in the House today, pretty stunning. We're going to talk a lot about that over the next hour. Jen Taub is here. She's the professor of law. She's here to cover all those kinds of legal issues that you might have from Rittenhouse, but also to discuss the politics of Paul Gosar and what happened on the House floor today. And while we wait and watch for a verdict, and we hopefully might see one, but that's unlikely, to be honest. If it's happening in the next hour, we would have known about it. But we'll certainly have a lot more to talk about this evening as we talk about this incredible, what I would call a day of reckoning that happened in the House today. Now, it's almost like we've been waiting for this day for the last 5 years, because today really was the reckoning of the Republican Party. Yes, it was the Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar who was censured on the House floor for tweeting an anime cartoon depicting him murdering fellow Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the President of the United States. Gosar was lucky to escape expulsion as his punishment. But really, it was Kevin McCarthy who deserves the most scorn for today. McCarthy's shameless, soulless, heartless, spineless, everything less lack of action, his refusal to condemn the threat of violence against his congressional colleagues and the President of the United States. That failure of leadership was laid bare for the world to see today. McCarthy's leadership simply failed the test. There's just no ways you can consider him an effective leader of anything, never mind a national political party. It was just 10 months ago, on January 6th, when McCarthy's own life was at risk, as thousands of GOP supporters attempted a coup. On that day, McCarthy called for help. On that day, he asked the then President of the United States to denounce the violence and call off his marauding protesters and the mob outside Congress. But on this day, today, McCarthy could not bring himself to do it. Why? Why did Kevin McCarthy fail to condemn the violence threat today? I'll tell you what I think. McCarthy and the leadership of the GOP and the whole House has made a pact. And this is basically what it looks like. This pact is basically that they will put up a united front. They'll protect each other and their precious political careers no matter what, no matter how terrible or egregious or serious the crimes they've each committed. Or even they've committed together, which it seems like they have been conspiring on crimes together. There really is no low bar. There's no bar at all for the GOP. Everything is acceptable as long as it stays in the club, as long as they stand together and defend each other. Let's think about what the GOP has done for America just today, just in the last 24 hours. In the Kenosha courthouse, we're awaiting the verdict in the case of Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, he's the 18-year-old, as you know, who crossed state lines to confront Black Lives Matter protesters with an AR-15, of all things, while pretending to be a medic. Rittenhouse is clearly guilty. He claims it was self-defense, and for that, he might get away with it. But that's not really what happened. The problem that I have with him getting away with it is it also lets everybody in the GOP leadership who helped foment the race crisis last summer get off too. The violence that erupted last summer around Jacob Blake and George Floyd was designed to inflame racial tensions. We know this. It was designed to terrify suburban women into voting for the GOP. Remember that? It's the same strategy they're trying to do with school boards this year. Now, I'm not excusing the actions of Kyle Rittenhouse. He should be found guilty and given the maximum sentence possible. But I'm also not excusing Kevin McCarthy and Donald Trump for what they did last summer. They should be standing alongside Kyle Rittenhouse in the accused box. The GOP and the Trump administration shadow looms large over last summer's race clashes. Kyle Rittenhouse is what the GOP has done for you today, along with Kevin McCarthy, Paul Gosar, and of course, let's talk a little bit about this man, Michael Flynn. This man, Michael Flynn. There's a new book out by ABC News correspondent Jonathan Karl. In it, he describes Mike Flynn, a retired lieutenant general and a Putin dinner guest, because that's what one does when you're a retired general. It describes Flynn ordering a Pentagon official, Ezra Cohen Watnick, to return home from the Middle East when he's on an official business, to seize ballot papers and implement special instructions to stop Democrats from stealing the elections that they actually won. This is a crime of the highest order. It is a crime against every citizen of the United States who voted last November. And it was a crime against the Constitution of the United States. Mike Flynn is another one of those things, another one of those people that the GOP has given us today. That Constitution, by the way, has been given very little respect of late. Some might have said it was on life support. But today, I think, today we saw and felt the beating heart of the Constitution of the United States of America. Because on the House floor was a reminder that every representative in that elected body swears to uphold the Constitution of the United States. There is no option B. That's the job. You either like it or you leave it. There's other names I would have added to the list of people who should have been censured today. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Madison Cawthorn, Andy Biggs, Louis Gohmert. They should all have been censured. They should all be expelled. The entire Sedition caucus should be expelled. Because that is what the GOP has done for you today, America. But what was really on display today was Kevin McCarthy's consciousness of guilt. He knows what he did in the days and weeks leading up to Jan 6. But he believes that if they all just stand united and resist the truth, somehow the truth will disappear. Like a group of naughty schoolboys caught in a prank. Well, let me assure Kevin McCarthy of one thing. Things are going to get much worse for him and his little pact with his den of thieves and liars. This thing will not hold up to scrutiny. In the coming weeks and months, every excruciating detail of how the once great Republican Party sold itself out until they brought democracy to its knees will come out. And I, for one, plan on enjoying the reckoning, because while McCarthy, Boebert, Green, Cawthorn, and Biggs, and everybody else gets to still go on their expensive lunches and receive their lobbying bribes, there are two people who cannot do that today. And they're worth remembering today. Anthony Huber and Joseph Rosenbaum, the people Kyle Rittenhouse shot dead. They might have been alive today if it weren't for the election tactics of the GOP last year. And for that, they shall never be forgiven. Now, I've frozen myself on the screen here. Am I frozen for everybody? Have I been frozen all along here? Maybe I have. Oh, fun times. I've just been reading along. Hi, Jennifer. Where am I? What happened?
I see you, but you're not, you're kind of frozen. It could be my end of things.
I was having such a good time telling everyone about the top of the show. Let me try to fix this. I don't know what's going on. That's so strange. I couldn't see.
I just thought it was me because I was waiting in this kind of virtual green room.
I just wasn't paying any attention. I was getting so into it. But at least you could hear me, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, and I could see. I mean, I could see a picture of you, your avatar.
I know, but look at me. Look at that. Look at that expression. It's fantastic. Jen Taub, did I say it correctly this time?
Yeah, I mean, good enough.
Oh gosh, I practice all the time. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate your time. And I'll tell you what, let's take a little break. And then on the other side, we can talk a little bit more about everything we've just been talking about, plus a lot more. And we will do that as soon as we take this break, which I'm going to do by playing. Oh, everything's frozen on me. This is a fun time.
Do you want me to play some music on my iPhone?
Do you sing? I was going to say, do you sing? Do you dance?
I don't, but I mean, you might get in trouble if I play like Taylor Swift, so I won't. I don't
think we can do anything like that. But you know what? I'm going to find this. So just hang on. I apologize. Okay. This is not really comfortable for me, but you know what the hell? You're such a good sport that I'm sure you're loving it. Where is this thing?
I mean, I can sing. But I'm not going to.
You can, but don't.
Anyone can sing, whether they can carry a tune is a separate.
I'm absolutely terrible at singing. I just cannot for the life of me. Look, this whole thing is frozen on me, and I'm not sure how to get out of this. This never happens. But I say never happens, although it has happened once before. So let me try this. I'm going to try to see if this takes us to break, and if it doesn't, we'll just have to restart in a second. But here we go. Hey, everybody. Thank you for supporting Narrative and for supporting our sponsors. I want you to meet the founder of Moink, an 8th-generation farmer who was featured on Shark Tank.
Time for breakfast. My name is Lucinda Cramsey. I was born on a farm and raised on a farm, and I'm an 8th-generation farmer. I wanted to give farmers the opportunity to be financially independent outside of big agriculture.
You can see why I selected Moink as a sponsor for Narrative. It's good for you and it's good for local farmers. Moink delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken and wild-caught Alaskan salmon direct to your door, helping family farms become financially independent outside of big agriculture. Their animals are raised outdoors, their fish swim wild in the ocean, and Moink meat is free of antibiotics, hormones, sugar, and all the other junk you find prepackaged in the meat aisle. Sign up at moinkbox.com. That's moinkbox.com/narrative to get a year of bacon for free, and then pick what meats you want delivered with your first box. Change what you get each month or cancel anytime. And you don't have to take my word for it. Narrative viewers get so excited about their Moink box arriving each month, they tweet at me telling me it's Moink Box Day at their house. And keep doing that. I really enjoy those. Moink meat is so delicious. Narrative discerning viewers love it, and I know you will too. Get Moink Box right now. Join the Moink movement today. Go to moinkbox.com/narrative. That's NARATIV, the way we spell narrative, right now. And listeners and viewers to this show get free bacon for a year. That's 1 year of the best bacon you'll ever taste, but for a limited time. Spelled Moinkbox, MOINK, box.com/narrative. That's moinkbox.com/narrative. Hey, here I am in full living color and moving. Thank you very much for being patient with me, Jen, and the audience. I don't know how this happened, but there you go. It does happen from time to time. Jen, I'm dying to get your thoughts on today's events because I thought it was really gripping to watch. It was really intense and heartfelt. I thought there was a real moment that happened on the House floor today with Gomar and Gomar, is that right? I'm losing my brain.
There's Gosar and there's Gomert.
Gosar, sorry. I am really losing my mind.
But he's easy to confuse with Gomert.
Terrible names, as it turns out. This guy is clearly, destined for this moment. But it really struck me that about Kevin McCarthy today, that he really just dropped the ball. I mean, he's no longer even an excuse for a leader of the Republican Party. This guy could not even condemn violence against his own colleagues today. It was just stunning.
I think the way you expressed it before the break is true. I mean, it's like Ronald Reagan on steroids. What is it? The first rule of the Republican Party is don't criticize any other Republicans. And that's what they're doing. And, it's like every test, it's even more stark, the differences between the two political parties. I mean, only two members of the House who are Republicans voted to censure him. I mean, it's
shocking.
Incredible.
It's shocking.
And it was, of course, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. But
yeah, just like the only two people that have any spine in there, and really they're not even part of the traditional Republican Party. But it does feel to me
expelled. He should be expelled.
Really
this
should.
Is not the first instance. This is not enough, and it's frightening. The political violence is always frightening. But the fact that all you get is kicked off your committees is astonishing to me.
It is really astonishing. It's really astonishing how Kevin McCarthy could be this man today after being there on January the 6th and, calling in for help and trying to get President Trump to call off his marauding mob there. He in that situation, he seemed to feel like there was reason to take extraordinary action and condemn violence. But in this situation, he didn't feel like it was. And, there's really no difference between Gosar and the mob on January 6th. They're basically one and the same entity. Gosar was involved in the planning of January 6th. He was there with Alexander all the way through. It's not like you can really separate those two things. It's all part of the same move to violence that the GOP seems to have turned into their policy.
I mean, and they got a lot of this from Trump. I mean, in this particular instance, what he was, I guess, lightly punished for and kicked off his committees for was taking an, anime and changing it around so it made it look like he was assassinating the president and a member of Congress.
Yeah.
And if you remember, of one of the, myriad distasteful, frightening, fascist things that Trump did was there was the remember the video with the wrestler and CNN and someone pretending.
There's all these memes that they kept putting out.
But all the pretending you were killing the media or all these things that he could try to hide behind his cartoons or jokes become inspirations for unhinged people who actually, in that instance, I remember there was someone who Remember the pipe bombs that were sent to media and members, and members of Congress, I think it was, or I think even people campaigning for president. There were several different people, so it's no joke, and it should be frightening. And, it was frightening when Trump was appealing to violence in his campaign. I think one of those cases is still moving forward where he got members of his audience to beat up on people. This isn't okay. And I really wish Congress would take it a step further and just kick him right out.
It's kind of astounding. It's what's happened in the last few years. I mean, the decline in decency and the decline in norms in politics is unbelievable. I mean, you can't imagine any of these things having happened 5 years ago. And now it's just like every day there's another, shocking thing that, Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Gosar or Gomert that, put out there. It's just like it's endless, it seems.
Well, when they let Greg Giannaforte, the guy from Montana who days before his election, tackled and threw a reporter, was it Ben Jacobs or something?
Yeah, I think it was Ben Jacobs. Yeah, you're right.
They should never have let him, be seated in Congress.
Yeah.
He shouldn't, and when you allow that, where do we go from here?
It's absolutely true.
I'm not surprised.
Look, you have a president of the United States that was, loved violence, told police to beat criminals who just thought that this was a sign of strength to be seen as a violent person. So that sort of trickles down. But Kevin McCarthy is just, he knows what the difference between right and wrong is. It's not like he doesn't know. He's very aware of of what he's doing. He just seems to think that it's okay to protect his political career by doing all of this.
You seem to think that this isn't theater for them. In other words, some of the people are, someone like Trump, this is, delusional and theater and ego and, wanting to be a strong man. But people who know better, they're acting a part. It would be like you were cast in a role instead of doing what you do, which is your honest broadcast. If we said to you, Zev, how would you like to audition to be on a television show or a series, and you're going to play the bad guy?
Yeah. Yeah, I know that this is what they.
Or you're going to play the good guy, or they're reading their lines because it creates.
Do you think Gosar's like that? Do you think Gosar's real? I mean, I worry about that guy. His whole family is like a little bit. Is very nervous around what he might do. Yeah,
the Gosars and the Trump truly are truly delusional, fascist, frightening people. It's the McCarthys and a good chunk of the other Republicans who will whisper to, the bookers on these TV shows or in the green room. If for COVID, you'd run into them and they would tell people, oh my gosh, I'm just keeping my head down. It's those people who are reading their lines and playing a role. And it's shameful.
It's shameful because
there's more of them than there are of the complete lunatics. And they have been enabling them ever since Trump took office.
Now, you wrote the book about dark money. And of course, I come to think that these people are playing this role because of money. I mean, at the end of the day, what's driving these people to act like this? They're not, everyone has some sort of threshold, but they must be doing it for money at the end of the day. What else could be driving them?
I mean, these jobs don't pay all that well. I mean, they're doing it to keep their positions of power.
Right. Well, I'm talking about money that they, get behind the scenes. Not really
yes, of course. I'm sorry.
The paybacks and the,
right. How the money in terms of, it's everything from, when you see them in front of us do things like not even censor the, these threats of violence. Is it any wonder that they're lying about the impact of climate change and trying to pass so-called tax reform that just made the rich get richer and corporations do stock buybacks instead of hire people? I mean, right. I mean, they're trying to stay in power, and if staying in power requires sticking together in this case, and it also requires them to make their donors happy. I mean, their goal right now is to get the House. Yeah. They don't want to lose any seats in the House, and that's why they're sticking together.
Well, it's also they've got a lot at stake. I mean, if this pact of theirs breaks, I'm really convinced there is a pact where they all agreed, no matter what, we're sticking together. We'll put up a united front. We'll excuse every bad thing that happens. We'll just agree that we'll do that in order to survive into the next election, save our political career. Now, I don't believe this pact can hold up to the scrutiny of the commission, that's the January 6th commission, or the other investigations that are happening around these people. I feel like it's going to collapse in sort of in kind of excruciating real time as we all watch on TV and commissions and hearings.
What do you mean? I mean, assuming for a second that such a pact exists, or that it's implicit, or it's just parallel conduct, to borrow from antitrust ideas, what could possibly happen? Are you thinking that if certain members of the House are caught up in criminal investigations, that they will be abandoned? I don't know.
I don't think they'll be
Really?
abandoned, but I think they're going to be coming. I mean, it's certainly true that Kevin McCarthy was involved in the days and weeks leading up to January 6th. He was involved in meetings. He was involved maybe on January 5th. So he could be involved in a conspiracy to overthrow the American government. I mean, there's all sorts of people in that caucus. Biggs, Gomer, they're all engaged.
Zeb, I gotta say, I want to believe that any of that would make him step down from office, but I doubt it. We had members of Congress who were indicted for insider trading, and they just hung on until Trump pardoned them. And I know they can't be pardoned by Biden, but if Trump wins in 2024, I think running the clock, sticking together is their strategy. When you've already sold your soul to the devil, you can't buy it back.
But here's what's coming. You're going to have these hearings. They're going to be happening in probably prime time. They're going to be on Fox News. It's not like they're just going to be on the left-wing channels. They're going to be on the right-wing channels. They have to cover them. It's going to be blatantly obvious to everybody that these guys have been lying and that they had some sort of vast conspiracy, a really vast conspiracy to overthrow the elections. It's not... it's going to be very hard for them to continue to say, nothing happened. It was just a...
Well, I hate to be... why am I being the devil's advocate?
I don't know.
But let me just... Can I just do this? Because, the bottom line here, though, is the justification that they give is the big lie. Right. So the way it's only going to... When the heat is on them, even if they're implicated in this, they're going to try to claim it was the right thing to do, follow every legal angle, the Eastman memo and the Ellis memo, that they were all just legal strategies, that had never been tested in court. So it was perfectly fine to push it that way. And it was perfectly fine to get the crowd all riled up. They didn't accompany them into the building. They just thought they were going to, be outside shouting and such. And that it was perfectly fine to do all of that because they're going to say Biden was stealing the election. So it's going to amplify the big lie, and we're going to be flooded with it and divided even more. And the only thing I think that will help is people just get so bored of this and they just want them all to shut up. And those go to jail who should go to jail. And I think people are going to be so sick of the big lie in Trump. I'm hoping that a lot of these Republicans don't get reelected as they start lifting that up again. But who knows?
Do you think that this, I don't know how one holds on to so many people and convince them to toe the line. They've got, probably hundreds of people that are being forced to stick to a story, both on a federal level, on a state level. There's operatives everywhere trying to force them into doing things. It's kind of, that in itself obviously is a crime, presumably. Presumably bullying people or forcing people to take these positions. Is that a crime? Is that actually a crime?
You've been so vague. What can you be more specific?
Say you're blackmailing somebody in a state legislature to help them to insist that they have an audit, or you've forced one of these congressmen to because you've got some dirt on them or whatever to act in a certain way or to defy.
If you are literally so if you're talking about a state and not a federal official, and if somebody is offering something of value or threatening to expose someone in exchange for what would be considered an official act, that is a violation of the Hobbs Act. All those pieces, yes.
And if you do that in a conspiracy,
what?
And if you do that in a conspiracy, I seem to have frozen again. But if you do that in a conspiracy, what happens?
If you layer onto the fact that you're in a conspiracy, then you just layer it'd be conspiracy to commit Hobbs Act extortion. All this is if you're giving me a hypothetical and I'm answering in a hypothetical, but we don't have evidence to that effect yet, right?
Right. Now I've frozen again. I don't know what's going on today. It's not really fun. But
I'm sorry that I'm laughing.
No, you know what? I'm so glad you're here because you're such an easy person to talk to that it's it's going to be fantastic just have you fill the hour while I try figure out how I try to do this.
Well, I should probably get my dog Ponzu to come back in. I shoot him out of the room because
have I met your dog before? I don't know if I have.
You may have met him on Twitter, but he's like the best dog. But he was being so noisy. I shut the door to my office, and I don't know where he's gone.
Oh, you know what? Maybe you'll be able to get him in the next commercial break if I can line that up. So I'm going to keep doing that. But you can still hear me, so that's okay. Let me ask you this question about how much criminal liability can the GOP leadership, if they find that January 6th was really involved the leadership of that party, and let's say you've got a proven evidence trail that says Kevin McCarthy and all these others were involved in a conspiracy to overthrow the democratic will of the people. What kind of trouble do they get into? Like, what are we talking about here in terms of actual crimes that they're breaking in? What are the penalties for that?
Well, so now, there are a lot of, I hear where you're headed with this, and you're thinking about a sedition. It's called a sedition conspiracy.
Yeah.
And, but again, there's specific elements to it. So, let me pull up the statute and tell you what the actual maximum penalty.
You know what? You can do that during the break. I can play this break, and then you can do the. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's do the break, and then on the other side, we'll find out all about seditious conspiracies and how much one gets to pay in terms of criminal liability for that. So we'll be right back after this, and hopefully with a moving camera. Hey, everyone. Thank you for supporting Narrative and for supporting our sponsors. If you're a regular viewer to the show, you may have noticed I wear similar things every day. That's because I can be sure it matches everything else I'm wearing. Now I can stop thinking about what to wear and just embrace the radically efficient Mack Weldon Daily Wear System. The Daily Wear System is a selection of clothes rooted in smart design, made with performance fabrics, and built to work together. From breathable t-shirts and polos to stylish button-ups and shorts, underwear, and beyond, Mack Weldon makes it easy for you to dress for work, leisure, and play, or wherever your holiday season might take you. I'm wearing the Ace sweatpants right now. It's available in a variety of colors, and don't get misled by the term sweatpants. These are structured and tailored and can easily be worn to informal meetings and also on travel. I've also opted for the Pima long sleeve t-shirt. The Pima cotton is really soft and you can wear it on its own or with a blazer. Again, everything is made to match, and it comes in black too. That saves me time, and I can focus on the things that matter, like the news. All that by wearing Mack Weldon's Daily Wear System. Buy Mack Weldon or products from the Daily Wear System this holiday season for 20% off your first order. Visit mackweldon.com/narrative, that's NARATIV, and enter promo code narrative. That's mackweldon.com/narrative, promo code narrative for 20% off. Mack Weldon, radically efficient wardrobing.
Found him.
And we're back. I found my camera is working sort of, even though it's a bit weirdly positioned, but I've got a backup now, so we should be okay. I'm hoping it'll be okay.
I found my dog.
So let me meet your dog. How exciting.
Oh, you're gonna be all scared now? Come here, baby. Here, boy.
I like your dog voice. It's a great dog voice.
Here, buddy. Hey, baby, come here. Come here, baby. Oh, come up. Look.
Oh, what kind of dog is this? Oh, look at him. Look at this guy.
He's a Bernedoodle.
A Bernedoodle. He's so big. He's like a big boy.
I mean, he's a cross between a Bernese mountain dog and a poodle. Hi, Bubba.
He is beautiful. Isn't he beautiful?
He is.
How much does he weigh?
In case we lose him, we've got a little finder right there.
Oh, okay. A nice pink. You're being very positive with the pink male thing. We were talking about that on the last after show. So he is just gorgeous. He's a little camera shy. Hey, buddy.
Why are you being this way, Bubba?
Hi, look, buddy.
There's Ziv. Say hi
welcome
to
to Narrative. Welcome to Narrative. Yes, there you are. Look at this adorable thing. Oh my gosh.
Oh wait, here's your. Okay,
I love dogs. I could talk about dogs forever. I miss my dog.
Here, baby. Here you go. You can chew on that. There you go. Okay. So
back to seditious conspiracies.
Right. Shift gears. Okay. Yeah. So the statute, it's 18 USC 2384. It's called seditious conspiracy.
Right.
And it involves, so it's if two or more persons in any state or territory or any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States conspire to, and here are the actions, conspire to overthrow, put down, or to destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof, they shall each be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both.
Wow. That's a long time.
So that's a cap. That's the cap. That's not the floor. And we have, all of this depends upon, you have to look at the sentencing guidelines, which look at someone's past criminal conduct, as well as this particular action, and all these different enhancements can happen depending on whether you had a weapon.
This is serious crime. This is not something you can brush off. I mean, you cannot probably stand for a seat or anything like that after that, can you?
You can't do what? Did you say?
Could you stand for office if you're found guilty of this thing?
Well, that's a question for the Constitution doesn't prevent someone who, you can run for president even if you are in prison. I mean,
but at some point, surely the Republican, I mean, of course I say this, although I can hear myself debating with myself. At some point, the Republican Party base and their followers realize that they're actually supporting a bunch of crooks and thieves and conspiracists. They realize this and then they back away. Is that even am I dreaming in Technicolor? From your perspective, do you think that this is just never going to happen, that these guys are bought and sold for?
Were you on a different planet for the last 5 years?
I actually think that things are changing. I really do think that we've started seeing things differently this week. I mean, I'm always optimistic about this, so I might be on a different way.
Optimistic, but again, my optimism goes to people being tired of watching this particular show.
Right.
I don't mean your show. I mean, tired.
Well, I don't blame them on this show.
Are we going to do this? Is it still going to constantly be the big lie,
here's things that have changed. Here's things that changed. Steve Bannon was indicted.
Yes, that was good.
That's a big thing.
That's great.
Based on his January 6th. I mean, it's not just like he was indicted. It was based on January 6th he was indicted. So
he was also indicted before, though.
Right, but he doesn't have a president that's going to give him a pardon right now. So he's going to probably have to face some music on this one. Probably.
Right.
I mean, he could go to jail for 2 years. That's a big deal. Steve Bannon going to jail for 2 years. I'll take that. I'll take that as a bit of a success. And then, you're looking at Michael Flynn now in the latest Jonathan Karl book. I mean, it's so evident that he was in the middle of a coup attempt that it's going to be hard for him to escape justice too. I really have to believe that. I feel like I don't know how he gets away with it.
He's like the worst, right? I mean, there was so much they had on him before, and yet, of course, also pardoned. But, again, doesn't have the president of the United States there to give him that pardon. And maybe, maybe it is the sort of the Pied Piper has come, because I just don't know what else. You got a commission that's clearly got legs and has got teeth, and it's going for it, right? It's going for the next 9 to 10 months heading into the election. We're going to know everything that happened on January 6th by the time we hit the next elections. So that's, also going to be fascinating. There's going to be other people potentially indicted. There's going to be other crimes that come out, and maybe you'll have like a John Dean moment or something like that happen. I mean, the trouble is, people run, they need their constituency of their voters. Their funders help them convince their constituents that they're the better person and the other side is evil. Mm-hmm. And it really, there's two different things going on. I'm optimistic about the Justice Department indicting Bannon. Mm-hmm. I'm optimistic about the work of the January 6th Commission. Mm-hmm. All of that's good, but it's a separate question as to when the Republicans themselves will see the light. You hear the dog being angry?
Yeah, he's supporting your position, I think.
Come here.
He likes Merrick Garland.
So in other words, I'm super optimistic about the direction of rule of law.
Yeah.
I just don't think the Republicans who are in office right now and are going to be facing, the election season starting pretty soon. right?
Right. I mean, look, the elections,
almost
you're
2022.
separating the justice track and the election track. I think that they're going to collide, those two things. I think that you're going to arrive at with so many hearings and so much going on next year, that this will sort of take over a lot of the debates that's going to happen every day. And because it's going to be happening in prime time and on Fox News and on Newsmax, it's going to be very hard for them to avoid the reality of what the truth is. But I hear you.
Hold on. You also hear Ponzu. Should I get up and move him?
Oh, I mean, he's okay. He's not bugging me, but if you want to, I
No,
can.
it's okay. I just feel bad for him.
Oh,
Sweetie, come here.
he just wants to have his say. So
come here.
we've discussed
I wish I
Bannon.
had a snack for him or something.
Do you want to go do that? Look at time. I can yak if you need to. I can fill
Just
time.
keep chatting. I'm going to look in my drawer and see if I have anything that he might like to eat. I have some chapstick. Is chapstick good for a dog?
I don't think so.
No.
Tell me about Merrick Garland. Are you feeling better about him these days? I've heard your position on him waver for sure in the recent past, but how do you feel about him right now? Is he living up to your expectations?
That's interesting. Lisa Monaco is living up to my expectations because I just wrote this piece for Washington Monthly, and I'm very happy about her announcement and apparently Merrick Garland's support for her. She's number 2 in line for the top position in terms of cracking down on corporate crime.
Okay, so that's good.
I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for Garland to show us and show me that I was wrong, and to say that he, either there's a grand jury that has been looking into a number of things, everything from obstruction of the investigation, obstruction of the Mueller investigation, to even the most recent tax evasion that was revealed in the indictment that Cy Vance brought, right? There was federal tax evasion. There's so many different things that should be investigated. And I really think there should be a special prosecutor a special counsel to look at that. But for all we know, he's quietly working and somehow nothing has leaked. And we're going to see an indictment of Trump for obstruction.
I think so. Maybe not obstruction. There could be so many other things. But I feel like the reason Durham still exists is to give him balance, right? So he's got Durham out there doing all these strange indictments that make really no sense. And I think he's, judging by his testimony in front of the committees last week or the week before, who knows, time flies. He seemed quite, he felt like the balance piece was very important to him. He kept saying, yes, we're investigating both the Republican allegations and the Democratic allegations. So Durham stuff is very public, but we don't hear anything about the other side.
So that's really interesting. I never thought about that, because in the Durham investigation, where the lawyer gets indicted, under a false statements, right, claim. Those are the same things that were brought against. I mean, it was Flynn had pleaded to the false statement initially. It's a pretty common thing to do, and so I never thought about that as being evidence of balance. I just thought, why is Durham still sticking around? But I can
it was these numbers. Every time a Republican congressman asked him a tough question, he said, yes, but we're also investigating the other allegations. Durham is still out there investigating it. So it gave the sense, and he's, his whole thing is to return balance and order and whatever, so to the DOJ. So I feel like there is something going on in the background, or we would not be here.
The only trouble though is, here's this. Of course, the Department of Justice shouldn't be a partisan tool to attack your political enemies. But it also cannot be, if you're walking down the street and there's if there's a gang in the neighborhood, or mafiosa who's done all this terrible stuff, and you're going to go after, and there's 500 people doing terrible things in one group, and then you have one person in the other. Let's say 500 of them happen to be Republicans, and then one of them happens to be a Democrat, and you pick one of each and say, we have balance. That's not balance. That's, I'm scared be accused of not being balanced. And I don't think that's, I hope that's not the story, but again, the proof is in the prosecutions, and, I'm really glad that, Bannon, as he should have been, was indicted, for, and then arraigned, in the charges for contempt of Congress. And, but we've got Donald Trump, who there's so much on him, and, Robert Mueller left a blueprint. If we cannot get, an indictment for that, or look at the Michael Cohen case, and we've talked about that before. How is it possible that Michael Cohen was charged with this paying off Trump's mistress? and that was a campaign finance violation, but Trump had nothing to do with it. That is, I've got
clearly he
a
did.
bridge to sell you.
But here's another thing that may be happening, and I really think this is also true. This crime may still be in progress. We are still in the midst of a major global conflict. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but there's certainly a lot of remnants activity from January 6th still happening. We know that there's organizations, there's all sorts of militia buildup, there's Russia doing all sorts of strange things like blowing satellites out of the sky for no good reason. There is, and the wars developing along the Russian front there. There's all sorts of reasons why things might be moving slowly or apparently slowly, because we might still be in the middle of a crime scene. I mean, America's not regained its stability just because Biden was elected. We're still in the process of recapturing sort of a stable ground and recapturing our alliances and even understanding how the world has changed in the last 4 years.
And how does that, where does it, is that a political observation, or where's the legal observation?
The legal observation there is what happens if, so the crime's in progress. The DOJ.
What are you defining as the crime?
The crime of it's the attack on democracy is still continuing. The broad attack on democracy. I know that's not a real crime.
So that's kind of a crime in the abstract. I mean,
yes, but it involves all these players that are still engaged in this conspiracy of whatever it is they're doing. So say that's still ongoing. You can't just, and you're still monitoring it, or you're trying to, figure out what the crime is, or figure out who's involved, whatever. In other words, you're still investigating it. You can't really act on it until you've investigated on it, can you?
Well, no. I mean, if someone's conspiring, so you're defining something a little amorphous for me, but let's assume for a second there's specific crimes in there, not just the whole sort of geopolitical restructuring. You can apprehend people. Like if we were conspiring to commit murder, you don't have to wait till the murder is committed to arrest people. Conspiracy is in and of itself a crime. Now, on the other hand, if you're talking about something that doesn't involve something as exigent, where someone's going to die or something's going to be irreparably changed, sure, maybe you want to follow people around until you could find out who the biggest players are.
What if there's also some pressure being exerted on the outside? And we know that the DOJ is not meant to be politically pressured in any way. But what happens if there is pressure coming from China or Russia or any of our adversaries saying, you know what, touch our guys and we'll respond? Or, any number of things that could be happening from a counterintelligence perspective that also need to be playing out. What do you, is that something that would slow down the process? I think it would, but I mean, it's just.
For that, I would want you to ask someone, the Ashta Rangappas of the world, people who have intelligence experience, which I don't. I mean, that would have been fun, but I don't know how those worlds interact. Right,
but I mean, these are all things that could be slowing down. I'm just trying to think of these are not necessarily silver linings because they're actually quite terrible, but they're nevertheless, there could be things that could be slowing down the Justice Department. As I'm just thinking out loud about why we haven't seen much action. But we also are seeing a very limited window left. I mean, we can't act in the middle of an election campaign. We can. We've done that before. It's not very good. So there really is, the window is now or until next spring, probably, right? I mean, there's not much time here.
In terms of the House, you're trying to talk about the midterm elections.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. You can't do anything.
I mean, at some point, the Justice Department doesn't probably want to get involved. Probably, I would think, after September or October.
Yeah,
right?
Probably
After
somewhere.
But it may be even sooner than that when you're talking about, all these primaries are going to be happening in the various states. But, I don't know. I don't know if there's any, Ponzu.
Ponzu's very, very fun.
I'm trying to talk to Zev.
Ponzu, you're welcome. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Come here, buddy. If you could at least growl on camera. Otherwise, I have to turn.
We should get a Ponzu cam.
To you, which is what he wants.
Yes, I understand that.
To you. But maybe, is there a metaphor in here? This is like, I am like the media, and I'm giving all of my attention to the whining, squeaky, barking wheel.
You could talk to Ponzu. It's fine. And pretend you're talking to me. You don't have to face the camera. It's totally fine. Ponzu, but you got to get your doggy voice on. That's the thing.
Okay, so here's the thing. I do agree with you that we should be optimistic because we are headed in the right direction. And yes, Ponzu, it's hard for me to fully predict how the public might react to prime time. Oh, shush. Television.
Oh, you see how you change when you talk to the dog?
The jury went home for the night. I'm sorry, honey. Come on.
You're such
Here,
a good
baby.
sport. Let's talk about Rittenhouse for a little bit here, because you know, he is, I think, as guilty as you could possibly be. I mean, it's very hard to see these self-defense claims being real, and anybody who was sort of, you know, it was evident on the night that he was looking for a fight. He wasn't just like hanging out there to treat people as a paramedic. I'm not even sure he is a medic. But what's your sense of whether he'll get off or not, or whether it'll be a hung jury, or what's your prediction?
Oof. I mean, there's so many different options. Like I mean, there's a possibility of a mistrial, but I don't think this judge wants to lose control, because if there's a mistrial, right? Because the defense is asking for one related to the quality of the drone video they got.
Yeah.
They said the one they got before the trial was not as clear or
What does that
detailed.
mean? What do you think the difference is between the clear one and the not clear one? Do you think the one, so the one
maybe
they got,
it's easier to see what the people are doing, and that video in particular is kind of hard to see what's happening right before Rittenhouse shoots.
So do you think the clearer one is more of an indictment for Rittenhouse? They're excluding that as a wow. So that's going to come out sooner or later.
Direction, you know, because his whole thing is he's claiming he was chased into kind of an alley and thought he was going to be killed, versus you know, that maybe he was that what I think the prosecution is arguing is that he was aiming at the gun at other people.
Right. And then there was just nothing really. There was like a plastic bag versus a gun and all these other things that when you might be able to see in high definition that you can't see.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that it's just a plastic bag, right? So maybe these are the kinds of things.
So that'll come out regardless after the fact. I mean, we're going to see that in a matter of weeks probably, and that'll make him look even more horrifically guilty than he is.
What? I'm sorry. What will we see in a matter of weeks?
4K drone footage will be released somehow, I imagine, to the public, regardless of the verdict. I would think. I think it's, you know, relevant to the public.
We haven't seen that. I mean, I know that I've seen something online, but I don't know if that's the exact footage.
I don't know whether we've seen it or not. I actually don't know if we've seen it. I
looked at something.
Maybe folks online can help me out with this. There's a whole bunch of people. And by the way, I can't put any chats up today because that is also working properly. It's been one of these days.
You know, I think so. So one option is that he grants a mistrial.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, he might do that if he thinks it would help the kid, right? If he's favoring him. On the other hand, then he loses control. And
what do you mean by lose control? What does that mean?
Well, then he may. Then it looks like he's run a bad trial. Then right. He may not be able to. You know, the prosecution could ask for another judge. I mean, he might try to hold on to it, but it doesn't seem like he should try the case a second time.
Right.
I mean, he could. The other thing is, I don't think it's going to be a hung jury, and I don't think it's going to be an acquittal, but it might be just a conviction on some of the lesser offenses, and then of course he'll appeal.
Right.
It seems to me, but it could be the reason why I think. Obviously, the jury is on that one part of the jury instruction.
Yeah,
sorry,
it's okay.
About provocation.
The editor's going to have so much fun with the show, trying to get Ponzu out of the show audio-wise. It's going to be amazing. We'll talk about it forever.
Come here. Come on, buddy.
This has been an unusual show, hasn't it, folks? There you go.
Okay, I'm back.
You're back.
So the judge gave the jury... the judge gave the jury instruction to say that self-defense is not available to the defendant if he provoked the attack. And so really the jury is looking at all the videos of each of the killings and the two killings and the one injury shooting to see whether they think he was the one who provoked it. And what's so difficult though is in the second two, you know, the defense is trying to say, well, they were coming at him and he thought they were going to kill him, when I'm not sure that's a reasonable assumption. He knew people thought he had killed someone else. He told someone on the phone, I just killed somebody. Someone said, did you shoot someone? And he lied and said the other guy had a gun. He knew people were coming after him. And I'm not surprised. I think that he probably knew they'd take the gun, but he probably thought they were going to be... He didn't think he was going to be killed. He probably thought he was going to be punched in the face.
No, he had an AR-15 and he had a bunch of friends.
One of the guys did have a gun and didn't shoot him. But remember how we've been told if you have a bad guy with a gun, all you need is a good guy with a gun.
Yes.
These guys, one guy had a gun and he wasn't even using it. He was trying to pull the weapon away. The other guy has
Look, there's no
Ponzu.
reason for this guy to have shown up there with an AR-15 anyhow. I mean, it just makes no
Right.
sense. And he's 17. And the whole thing is so, it feels so contrived. Like, it does feel like it's a bit of a setup, but it's also,
And why didn't the police tell him, hey, buddy, what are you doing walking around with?
well, he was there with the
that weapon?
police. He was there as part of their little squadron. So, I mean, and this happened a couple of times during that summer last year. The environment was created for these clashes. They created a political environment to create these clashes in various cities that they wanted to win. They wanted to win all these swing states. So they created these flare-ups. And,
That's right. Wisconsin is a swing state, right?
Right. Yeah. So then, you send in someone like Rittenhouse or a bunch of other people to make sure that the tension gets inflamed. And yeah, you're going to get some casualties along the way, of course, for something like that. That makes it even more inflamed. Maybe you'll get a body count, but so what? You might win the elections. I think that's really the political thinking of the GOP.
But the whole thing is and this was a reaction to the Jacob Blake killing,
shooting,
right?
Yeah.
And what's really striking in all the chaos of that night, only 2 people were killed, and both of them were killed by him, and that is indisputable.
Yep.
Rittenhouse killed
and
the only people.
And
it was, as they call it, what do they call it? White on white crime.
It was white on white crime. Just think everyone assumes that there was the black people were shot. That would have been, even more contentious, I think, in terms of the verdict. But these are white people that were shot. But it seems like he was looking for that fight. It seems very like that's what he was there to do that night. And, that's my opinion, of course. There's no way to get into the guy's mind, but I don't see that they put up a defense that really argues that. But I do think there's a possibility that there's a hung jury. I think there's one person on that jury needs to say, hey, I believe Kyle and I don't believe he's guilty. And then it's hung, right? Then what happens then?
I mean, if you ever saw the movie 12 Angry Men, you know.
I didn't see it, but
you could just be there for hours.
Yeah.
In that case, it's a different story. It seems like the defendant was probably innocent, but deliberations, if they're done seriously, require thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, between the judge, his very weird rulings, and the very strange way he presented the jury instructions,
Mm-hmm.
The jury's got to get to beyond a reasonable doubt. To me, it's so clear based on what I saw
Mm-hmm.
that he's guilty, but I'm not in the jury room.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get to say that, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they look at all those video evidence. I think it is going to be very telling, and I think especially telling for the Republican Party. I do feel like they are a bit beholden to, they should be held to account for what happened last summer in terms of these race riots. And I don't think that these things can be looked at in isolation. And I think they're doing the same thing right now with school boards. And I think that's very troubling.
Oh, yes.
So we're seeing this sort of these stunts taking place in people's real lives, in people's real neighborhoods, in their schools, that are designed to sort of aggravate people, strike fear into the hearts of moms so they vote for the Republican Party. It's the sickest, most cynical way of winning an elections.
I mean, school boards for a long time have been, school boards, school textbooks, local communities are a really important place to get involved in politics. And a lot of these positions are not paid positions. Like our city council in my town in Northampton, the people who do this run for office, but they don't get paid for their jobs. People who are on the school committee, they don't get paid. And so at some point,
Ponzu, come on. Let Jen
Maybe.
do 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes with Jen.
Here, buddy, here. Look at what this is. Doesn't this look like this is bacon? It's not like the kind that you advertise, but this is a bacon chew toy.
Yes.
It's really chewed up, Ponzu. Do you see how quiet he is?
He likes the bacon. That's good.
It used to probably smell like bacon. Now it's all chewed up by you. Here you go, buddy.
Maybe we should get a moink box for him. I don't know. Probably not.
He might like that.
He might like that.
Come on, buddy.
I give up. I don't even know what we were talking about. But what were we talking about?
Oh, you said something about, yes, we were talking about the way this concerted effort, it seems like, by the Republican Party to send really angry, irrational people into school board meetings, into already contentious places to kind of stir the pot, create divisions, create,
The school board invaders are the Kyle Rittenhouse of this year. They're basically the equivalent of that. They're going in to stoke fear, to create, chaos, to do whatever it is they need to do in school boards in order to get moms to vote for the Republican Party. That's basically what it is. It's true as well, even though it's cynical
not
and
all
awful.
moms, right? They're trying to go after a certain kind of white,
suburban mom,
a certain kind of white suburban mom who doesn't actually even know what critical race theory is, who has no idea who Kimberly Crenshaw or Derek Bell are. It's just, I actually, and then the whole way the Democrats are sitting back saying, oh, we would never teach critical race theory in high school. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, do you know what you're talking about? And why shouldn't we look at history through a lens that considers race? Why shouldn't we be doing that at any age? We shouldn't be. I think the mistake Democrats make is they let these bogeymen, be created, and then they just act like what, they shame people who want to pay attention to the deep-rooted, ongoing history of white supremacy and racism in this country.
I agree with you. I think the whole critical race theory thing, though, is, the term critical race theory means something to voters, and they've adopted it as not wanting to be criticized about race. That's basically the way white GOP voters are looking at this term. They don't want their kids criticized about race history, and they don't want to be criticized themselves about race history in America.
I wish we could organize right now. What we mostly need is a kind of truth and reconciliation, because our country is so divided. And I think that those, the mythical white suburban moms actually matter, but who matters more? Everybody in the country. We can't just single them out. And I think that, if we think of ourselves together instead of as divided, then we can talk about this stuff, and get over it. But I don't think...
This was our topic of the show last night with Erica Anderson, who wrote this Change book. It's all about how do we find unity in all of this? Both sides have to move. We're not going to get to a new vision of America unless we both move. The left has to move, the right has to move, and we have to find some sort of new thing. The old paradigm, it's gone. It's not going to come back. I don't see it coming back. So what does that new paradigm look like, and what can we agree on, within all of this? That is where we need to go. I don't see the current...
Well, the trouble is, you would think that we could say, there was a time when I thought what the right and left agreed on is we were against corruption, and we were against crony capitalism, and we were against political violence, and we were against stupidity. And that's what the Republicans all stand for now. So I don't know how to find common ground, but let me know.
Yeah, this current crop may not be the guys to get any sort of compromise with, but we need to go through this process because we've got some big things to deal with. We've got China rising, we've got Russia about to be at war with Europe. There's a lot of things that we need to deal with.
Russia cutting off the oil supply was not the greatest moment today, right?
What was that? Did I miss that? What happened today with the oil supply?
Did you hear that? Wasn't there something about Lushenko cutting off is that his name, cutting off the
Lushenko, yeah.
I don't know. I saw it on Twitter, so it must be true.
It must be true. Look, these guys are going to go to war. They're intending to go to war. At least they're going to try.
China's really, what's going on in China, the civil unrest right now in Hong Kong.
I didn't realize this.
That's
interesting.
Economic unrest in mainland China and the threats to Taiwan. All of this is creating on the ground there, I think, a lot of opportunities for uprising.
Indeed. And I think that's we can't afford to be fighting against each other when we've got these big global foes out there that are, stirring up war. We might have to fight a war. We're not ready for a war now. I don't think we're ready for a war, but we might have to go into one in the next year or two. And if we do that, we better get united around something or somebody or somehow. And maybe that's what we need to see us sort of confront that moment is to realize that we're on an existential threat. But boy, that's not a great way to find out.
You would think that fighting a deadly virus would have united us.
You would think. In fact, did the exact opposite. I could talk to you for hours. I literally can. Thank you very much for being patient today. I don't understand why this happens. But
thank you for being patient with me. Once your screen froze, and I figured I could have a whining dog, and I feel so sorry for everybody listening.
I think Ponzu would have been better than me if we just had him on the camera. The ratings would have been amazing because he is too adorable. And we thank him for howling his way through the show.
Quiet, buddy.
I apologize to the audience for what happened today, but these things happen. I had no idea. So I can't even I have no idea. But Jen Taub, thank you very much for being here tonight. Tell everyone about your book again. It's called Dirty Money, Big Dirty Money.
Yes.
Big Dirty Money, it's from memory. Tell everyone why they should buy it, because it's still out in soft cover now, and so tell everyone about that.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, so yes, you should check it out of the library or buy it at your local bookstore, or if you must, from Jeff Bezos. The book is really laying out the history of what white collar crime is, how the term came about, and how the times that we actually, as a country, crack down on corporate and white collar criminals, why we stopped doing it, and how we need to change all of that. And I think we're on our way, I'm happy to say, with Lisa Monaco.
There you go, Lisa Monaco. This is because of the stuff she's done recently about cybercrime, or do you think there's just a lot more that she's doing?
She gave a big speech at the end, right before Halloween, at the end of October, to the American Bar Association, to a big meeting on white collar crime, told them that the lackadaisical approach from the Trump era was over.
Wow.
And I wrote this piece for Washington Monthly that just came out on Monday. So you can look for that, in which I say that, she made it clear that corporate criminal law enforcement has gone from the deep freezer to the front burner. So I'm very encouraged by that.
Well, that is good news. That is good news. And your day job is to be a very, very smart professor of law at which, I'm sorry, I should have all this.
I'm at Western New England University School of Law, right here in Massachusetts.
Do all the students absolutely love you? Because you must be the most amazing prof. I mean, you really would be. I'd go.
Well, you have to ask them. I have 2 courses this fall. One class, I have 87 students, and I'm teaching them civil procedure, which is the court process in federal courts. And I don't know.
What's the other course?
The other course is securities regulation.
Oh.
And next semester, I'm teaching white collar crime, and a new course called Law, Money, and Power.
Oh.
Or no, Money, Law, and Power. It's a new, and that's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Can we register and watch you online? Is there a way to do this? No.
No.
You have to actually attend the university.
No, we're not doing any more Zooming unless someone really needs to Zoom in.
That's good. I think the era of Zoom was fun, but it's time to move on. Speaking of which, we should get out of here. Thank you very much, Jen. I appreciate you being here for the hour. Thanks to everyone watching tonight. Always, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. If you're so inclined, you can donate and join our Patreon community at patreon.com/narrative. And I will be back on Friday with the after show. Greg will be here. LB won't be here, but we have a surprise guest. So we'll do that all on Friday. Tomorrow is a day off-ish, and that I don't have a show. But we will see you then on Friday. And have a good night, everybody. Thanks, Jen. Have a good night. Bye, Ponzu.
Good night.
Narrative is made possible by viewers like you. Join today and support truly independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative. That's patreon.com/narrative.